This is Phil Surkis coming to you from Madtown, USA. Madison, Wisconsin. They hate it when I say Madtown. But this is the theme to my new podcast.
Philly's got a plan. He doesn't need you to understand.
But the name of the podcast is actually Philly in the Middle, not Philly's Got a Plan. But I don't need you to understand. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever it is that you hit play. Yeah, I did use the exact same start theme as my first episode, so that might be a little confusing, but I liked how it came out, so I'm going to try it this second episode. The most important thing I should tell you is, please wait. I have a guest on the show this week, and I followed through. If you listened to the first one, you know I talked about Bianca Martin, the host of City Cast Madison, and this happened. We sat down just the other day, and we had a great conversation, and you're going to hear it in a moment. But first, I want to say this past weekend, here I am in the middle, but I was really heartened that over 15,000 people showed up to the No Kings protest on Saturday. I wasn't sure what to expect because where I'm from, or where I've lived for many long time, Oakland and SF, hey, people show up. And I was like, are people going to show up in the middle? Are people going to show up in the purpley area? 15,000. It was so nice to see. I went with Jen. We left Marty at home, but he was good. Walked him before. No, I'm not like that. We walked him beforehand. I wouldn't leave Marty hanging. It was a good scene. And I think I'm still kind of riding that kind of community high from seeing all the, even though it's hard messages, lots of work to do. I'm glad that people showed up because there was a lot of stuff happening in Madison this past weekend. A lot of stuff. There was the Jazz Festival. There was this Marquette Festival. Madison, the Midwest explodes with festivals and things to do come summertime because winters are kind of stay at home and do very little time. And then it gets crazy. I don't know why. I guess in California, everything just gets spread out evenly because every day is the same weather-wise. Okay. Anyway, I just want to let you know what just happened. But here we are. I'm on my mission. I'm on my journey talking to folks here in the Midwest. And without further ado, I basically put Bianca Martin in the middle of this podcast. So here you go. We're back for our first real episode. Not that the first one was fake, of Philly in the Middle. The first episode was just me at my desk making an episode because I had to start it. But now shit's getting real because here, not in the middle, but next to me, because I'm in the middle, is Bianca Martin, is my friend who you all know from City Cast Madison. Hey, Bianca, welcome to Philly in the Middle. Welcome to the North Side.
Yes. Hey, Phil. It's good to be here. I'm happy to be stuck in the middle with you. I guess you are in the middle, as
That's
you said.
Good. We don't want to get sued yet.
But I only kind of, I don't know. Does that count?
I don't know.
Are you going to cut it out?
They have AI trackers that get that. But I like that song. And maybe I can make a version of that sounds similar. I have some questions for this little light podcast called Philly in the Middle. Go back and listen to the first episode because basically I grew up on one coast, the East Coast, spent my life on the left coast, the West Coast. Now I'm here in the Midwest, which is boggling my mind. Just today I saw kids go by my window, teenagers. They had fishing rods, fishing poles.
Yeah, that sounds right. People weren't fishing on the East Coast or the West Coast.
You know who was fishing? Old salty guys in yellow slickers on the Atlantic Ocean.
Not the kids, yeah.
Not the kids. So when I'm around places like Tenney Park in Madison and I see people with fishing poles, are they eating what they catch?
I really ought to know that. I feel like you have to throw fish back. I don't know if there's a certain number you can take. There's a license for this. I have not been trained.
Okay, so I'm talking with someone who I believe was born in Baraboo, Wisconsin.
I was actually born in Evanston Hospital in Illinois because my parents are Chicagoans. But I grew up in Baraboo and did all my schooling in Wisconsin. So very Wisconsin, but I have roots in Chicago. But then also my mom's family has roots in Baraboo. So I'm very Baraboo.
I would call that way in the middle. Even though you've had some forays into some other places like DC.
Yep, I lived in Washington, D.C. and Chicago. And I have friends in Oakland and LA and New York City. And sometimes I think, why haven't I joined you? But I have most of my life solidly in the middle.
So the middle you're in right now is Madison, Wisconsin. How long have you been in Madison?
Collectively, a decade. I went to school here. So I went to UW-Madison for undergraduate. And then I stayed for another year and a half. And then I moved to DC and then was in Chicago and came back. And now I think I've been here for 3 years. So maybe I'm like 8 years.
Would you say that Madison, the city, the town?
The town has been dissolved. That was a thing, a town of Madison.
Oh, when was it dissolved?
I think a few years ago. There's a whole story about it that I do not know.
Okay. If there's one person in this town who has stories, it's Bianca Martin, who has made, I don't know, 600, 700 episodes of City Cast Madison.
Yeah, we just passed the 608 mark.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very impressive.
Which would matter to people if they know that our area code is 608.
I have a feeling our listeners are going to be heavily concentrated in Oakland, California.
Yeah.
and
so that's why I'm like, why did she 608? She made it to 608. All right.
For me, it's all about the 510 and 608 right now. 510, 608. So how did you know Madison is this place that you're really spending a lot of your life here?
Well, so I did grow up in Baraboo, which is 45 minutes to an hour kind of north of Madison. And Madison was the big city. Like, it's the state capital. We would go for state competition. So like when I was in art club for drawing, you get to go to Madison and do the art history bowl. So I associated Madison with like intellectualism. And I remember in high school, I drove way too fast because I was late to go see Noam Chomsky speak at the Orpheum.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like,
okay.
and I was a big into academics, funny enough, because my great uncle was a professor at Stanford. Boo, I'm just kidding. No, but I remember because I wanted to go to Berkeley.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm not going to afford that. And I didn't try. So I went to UW-Madison, which you might have heard before called like the little Berkeley. People would call it that, at least here.
What would they call it?
They're just like,
Berkeley of the Midwest?
Yeah, kind of, because of the history with protests.
Hey, I like that.
Yeah.
It's making me feel like connected in a way. Also, it's a big little city.
It's a big little city. And I remember going. And so, I mean, I was in Palo Alto, which is its own thing, but I got to see the whole Bay Area. But I was like, academia is so cool. I want to be a professor or whatever. I always was looking forward to moving to Madison for the university. But the campus also got me. Like, I was a nerd and took 3 college tours. I was so excited to move to Madison. And I think the campus ethos and the gorgeous trees and lakes. And...
Okay. I'm glad you brought this up. All right. So I had an energy audit done. That's another episode. But I asked this person, this was maybe a little preliminary filling in the middle work. I asked this person, like, she loves Madison. What's attracting you to Madison? And she said, the intellectual nature of the people who live here. So
yeah,
I want to ask you, Bianca, I dropped out of junior high school. Is there a place for me in this mecca of academia?
I think absolutely so. I feel like you're a big old intellectual, but you're an intellectual with your heart. You're a musician. You're an artist, you know. And I mean, if you think like specifically on campus, I bet you could figure out some way to get a job or be involved in a way.
I have another question, and they're just going to get more interesting.
This is fun.
Is Madison weird? And if so, are you contributing to that in any way?
I think that Madison for sure has its peculiarities. I mean, I've lived in DC and Chicago, so there are other places I could have lived. But Madison is really like prideful of its crunchiness. It's really holding on to some of its identity from the 70s and 60s, like the Vietnam War era. And I think, you can find on a regular day someone riding a unicycle, up Willie Street.
That's true. That's true. I've seen that.
Yeah, people get funky with it.
So then is the weirdness just like the progressiveness in contrast to the more conservative state? Is that why that came about? Or do you know anything about the origin of that?
I mean, I've never heard an expert say this is where Madison's weird is, but curious. I mean, you're onto the right point that all my life people in other parts of the state are like, Madison's a different country.
Yeah.
They think like what happens here is so wild, and it tickles me.
Well, it tickles me too, because this is the first thing I heard, and I lived just like less than a mile from the Berkeley town line, and people
like,
are
you think we're
people say the
weird?
People's Republic of Madison. I'm like, it's the People's Republic of Berkeley. Everyone knows this. I just keep hearing that connection, that little pipeline between these two places. I hear about that a lot. I have another question about where you live. Is there a small, dumb thing that irrationally drives you crazy about where you live, about Madison? And if you want to take the fifth because you're a public figurehead, you can do that.
No, I mean, I think the things that make me crazy are pretty rational around race, around the way race is discussed, and around liberalism or progressivism in Madison. But irrationally crazy sounds a little trickier. I don't know. I guess I wish everywhere had earplugs at concerts. Maybe that's irrational.
I like that answer.
Yeah,
I like the
like,
I like it. I like that you started
out.
with racism and just said, no, that's way rational.
Right.
Yeah. For me, it's probably more rational too, but so far I hate the hard water.
Oh,
which is not a
rational.
Midwest thing, but it's a
here thing.
Hard water is making my life really awful, and I'm losing my sense of what water should taste like. So
no man should experience that.
I'm trying to get a line on like we just got a new filtered pitcher, and it's making things taste fishy.
You know what's strange is I went to, somewhere in Topanga Canyon, somewhat more on the southern part of California, right? And they had soft water, and I was showering in it. I'm like, what is this oil? This is weird, man. Like, it was strange.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that it was a memorable experience for you.
Yeah.
All right, we've been talking a lot about Madison. If you had to move somewhere totally new right now, sight unseen, where would it be and why?
New Zealand.
Really?
Yeah. Bye. I am out, and I'm going to the land of beautiful greenery, and I guess Norway is popping into my mind as well. But I'm thinking of what are those called? Fjords? I'm forgetting the word. I think it's called a fjord. But I'm a big water person, and I'm a big bird person, and I would just like some relaxation and some peace. And
you could also be describing Madison.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, well, I'm 6 feet tall, right? And I'm biracial, and I also like wearing lipstick. So I just stand out. Like, I remember when I was in college here, I had someone come up to me and they're like, I know you. Like, I always see you walking. It's just like, oh, that's strange. Just like, that doesn't mean you know me, but you've seen me. But people feel like, because it's
you stand out in this town.
Yeah, I have big hair. I don't always wear it out, but
yeah, I mean, I weirdly sort of a little bit stand out in this
I think you do
town.
Too. Yeah. You got stylish glasses. You're tall. You know, you've got style.
Back in the Bay Area, I was Jewish, but here in the Midwest, I'm vaguely ethnic.
Yeah, what is he? That is so funny.
Is there a difference between liking a city and belonging to a city?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so, because I think belonging is a personal thing, or that's how I would think about it. And if you like it, you're connecting something within you, you know?
Yeah.
And so if somebody says that you don't belong, it's like, well, it's none of your business if I think I belong. You know, I don't need your permission to belong to the city. But then if someone did that, you probably wouldn't like the city as much, right? I don't know.
Do you think there are aspects of the culture that you know that are misunderstood by people on the coast?
I think that there might be a lack of knowledge around the history of some of the progressive roots in Wisconsin. So, like, technically, the first progressive, who would call it that, Senator Bob LaFollette, was from Wisconsin. And, like, some of those ideas, like the history there, comes from Norway. Or there's like ideas around where you see today that country, you know, oh, they're doing pretty well and they care about social safety nets and all of those things. Like when you find out that Wisconsin was the birthplace of Social Security, like the people who masterminded that, like if you look at what's been accomplished, there's a lot more going on. And in fact, the CEO of City Cast, he came on the show and he was like, wow, like you guys actually, you really did have more than I realized, you know? And it's because look at some of your favorite people, like they come from the Midwest and Chicago's like huge, you know?
Yeah. All right.
I don't know if Chicago counts.
I like where you're going with this answer because what I've discovered, I started to think about Wisconsin as similar to the state I grew up in, which is Connecticut, and that there's a lot that was invented here, a lot of things that come from here. There's a lot here that is a brand new discovery to me that I didn't know. Yeah. Because I think like whoever's doing the PR for the Midwest, too much America's Dairyland.
Right. You know? And cheese.
Yeah. All right. 3 more questions, but I really like that answer. Have you ever experienced culture shock in your travels?
Yes, I have. I experienced it a boomerang. I'm thinking between Wisconsin to DC and back to Wisconsin. So I had a little culture shock when I moved to DC originally from living in Wisconsin. And I'm like, okay, I got there and I was smiling because I was happy and I was in Chocolate City, or, you know, I used to call it that. The demographics have shifted quite dramatically in the past 10 years, but I was surrounded by a lot more people of color and I'm like, oh, I'm here and I'm smiling. And the man stopped me and he's like, why are you smiling? I just want to understand. He had his baby in a stroller and he stopped his life to be like, what could you possibly be smiling so much about? And I was just like, I just moved here. I'm happy to be here. And then like I learned over the next few weeks, it's like no one looks at you. No one is smiling at you. Like I lost my phone and I tried to ask people for help and like 4 people said no to me, including someone in Spanish. And then I was like, spoke to her in Spanish. She's like, no, like, like she tried to get out. The woman like clearly was trying to get out of the conversation. And I was like, wow, like people are really cold. Like I could not believe it, but it just
I didn't know that about DC because like I could say like you got East Coasted. But you know what? That's more like mid-Atlantic.
Mid-Atlantic, yeah. Well, there's something like, oh, I'm just too busy to be, you know, you're not of use to me. And like here in Wisconsin, people, hey, it doesn't matter. Everyone, it's like a lot.
Okay.
Here's the second part of culture shock, though, is when I moved back to Wisconsin, I was in culture shock from having adapted to living abroad.
Re-entry culture shock. Oh, my God.
Yeah. And people here were like, everyone was smiling at me and looking at me. And I was like, why? Stop. Leave me alone. And that was funny. So
that is funny.
Yeah.
I just want to say, DC, do better in all the ways. All the ways. All the ways. Two questions left. What's the story you're still trying to figure out how to tell about yourself?
Who I am as a biracial woman, being so connected and caring about the Black experience and issues that happen to Black people, and then also having come from such a corn white town. You know, my parents are Chicagoans, but I did grow up in a small rural Wisconsin town, and having a white partner who is, you know, from some similar cultures that I grew up in. And I am like, I'm always on the margins of something, and it's like, I can be okay with that, but it's maybe hard to express that complexity in this world. It's like where everyone's moving quick and, you know, and everyone's got their identity and they care about their identity. And I've got so many different identities, and how do I hold them all in a way that's accurate? Yeah. It's not flattening.
That's so real.
Yeah. And it's something I've swallowed most of my life. Like I'll speak up sometimes, but it's a confusing thing to have home in a place that isn't fully welcoming. But they don't even get it, you know? It's like the people who are racist, I grew up with them, and I just know it's like I was in 4th grade with you. It's like you think things are being taken from you.
Yeah.
And you know, it's coming from a place of needing identity, and you're choosing this. It's kind of sad, you know, because it's dehumanizing themselves in the process.
It is. It's very sad. And you'll always have a safe space here.
Yay. There are a lot of good hearts in Madison. And I know
There
like
are.
hearts is a problematic thing. I was talking about racism. People are like, it's not their heart. I'm like, it has nothing to do with their heart. Rarely. But there are a lot of good people here, despite the struggles.
So they call it the City of Allies. No, they don't.
Lol.
Okay, last question.
Okay.
Where should I get a cup of coffee, and who should be my next guest?
Ooh. I've already tried to give you Rex, and so I'm just going to send your ass to Ancora.
Ancora. I haven't been there, so thank you.
Yeah, there's a new one by me, so.
I don't know. I feel like I could ask a question, where should I go find my Midwestern experience? But no, I'm going to keep asking people where I should get a cup of coffee, because I think like that's the key to my heart.
I've got your next guest, and I don't know if she'll come on, but I would recommend Libby Tucci, who is a director of some sort at the YWCA with racial justice. And she is a white woman, but she does so much incredible work on what that means, and also like doing workshops of like how to be anti-racist, and like she's one of the most thoughtful people I've ever met. So
I would love to meet Libby, and actually she's someone else recommended Libby too.
Are you kidding?
Bianca, can you broker this? Can you hook
I'll
this?
do my best, but she very intentionally, in her intentionality, doesn't center herself a lot. So this, I'll sell it.
This podcast is called Filling in the Middle, but it's so far from the center. Like, you know, again, 2.5 listeners.
I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. People, listen to Bianca. She's like one of the coolest people in town. Listen to City Cast. She appears here and there. She does hosting. She does all kinds of things. Show up for Bianca, because she's the real about the Midwest. The real. Which is what I'm trying to find out.
You've got a challenge ahead of you, Phil. But I believe in you, and I'm glad you're investigating it. And thank you for the kind words. It was a pleasure.
Phil has got a plan. He doesn't need you to understand.
Thanks for hanging in there and getting to the end of Philly in the Middle. Thank you to Bianca Martin for spending some time on the North Side. The song, Philly's Got a Plan, is by a Madison band called Dolores, who's no longer together, but the members are off doing fabulous things. The show was an idea I had, and so I made it. See you next time.